being in Des Moines also. It's pretty cold out there, and I appreciate all the effort. Today, Iowans will be the first to cast votes for the president in his re-election in 2020, so we're very proud. Iowa's a state the president cares greatly about, and it's going to be important for our re-election. A lot of people ask why we're here today, because they're like, president's in a re-election, why are we out here? And the truth is, this is our first test of a grassroots army we built. This is going to be the largest grassroots army the Republican Party's ever seen, or hopefully ever this country's ever seen. And this gives us a little kind of first, take the training wheels off and get it going. And I think the president is going to be very proud of seeing how that ends tonight. We've built a well-oiled machine, and today it'll be the first test of that machine, and I'll be very happy at the end of the night. We also have 80 surrogates here. They're going to be across the state. That's probably the largest showing we've seen. We're going to have volunteers at all the sites, and the president's going to be well positioned for the night and for the victory. Not going to speak much. I'm going to first bring it over to Lara Trump. We'll let all the Trump kids and talk about the re-election for 2020.
Well, it's not often I have to move the microphone down, but only for Brad. We can do that. We're so excited to be here in Iowa. It does not feel like that long ago that we were here for the 2016 election. And in many respects, we're in a very different place than we were in 2016. We did not at that time know that Donald Trump would be the nominee. This time we feel pretty good about that prospect. Right? Not bad. But what is not different is that we don't take a single vote for granted. So the reality is we have this amazing group of people, and I've seen so many incredible supporters of the president in this audience. We have them deployed around the state because we don't take a vote for granted. And we're here in Iowa to show the people that we take this election seriously. We're playing every second of the game until the very last second, because while we feel very strongly about the president's re-election chances, we want to make very, very sure of that. So at the campaign, we've done something. We've put together a bunch of coalitions that we feel have been very strong for this president. We, this summer, launched our Women for Trump coalition. We've also, yes, our Women for Trump, Latinos for Trump, Black Voices for Trump, Veterans for Trump, Cops for Trump, Evangelicals for Trump, Pro-Life Voices for Trump. And I can tell you that these coalitions are growing every single day, and it is because people around this country are feeling the results that Donald Trump has delivered for them. So it is our job at the campaign to get these coalitions to go out there in their own communities, to teach them about how to talk to your friends and neighbors about Donald Trump. Remind your friends and neighbors, if things are working for them right now, it's thanks to Donald Trump, very simply. So that is our job as we head into Election Day. I was just here in Iowa 2 weeks ago with Kayleigh McEnany and Mercedes Schlapp. We did a Women for Trump tour, a bus tour across the state. It's much warmer now, believe it or not, than it was when we were here before. But what we saw every single stop that we made was that we had so many Democrats that came to the events that we were holding. We see that at the rallies, we see it at our events. Something is happening out there in this country. It's happening again. It happened in 2016, and we cannot wait for November 3rd to feel the full impact of the Trump presidency and get 4 more years of Donald Trump. So with that, I will bring up another Woman for Trump, Kimberly Guilfoyle. Please come on up.
How much do we love Lara Trump, right? My God. She's doing an incredible, incredible job, and it's such an honor to work alongside her and this fantastic family, and also all of you. We really appreciate deeply from the bottom of our hearts the efforts that you put in, your patriotism, your love of this country, and most especially your genuine, full-throttled support for President Trump, right? Oh, my God. This really feels like the election now because everybody knows Iowa is where it starts, it begins, and often is the truth teller about what's going to happen in terms of the general election. We've seen that in terms of the last 6 out of 7 general elections. The person who won Iowa is the person who goes forward. And I'll tell you, we have the best president that this country has ever seen. He has really delivered unprecedented results, lifting all Americans up. And I personally thank President Trump for uniting this country, in fact, by across every socioeconomic metric. He has succeeded. He has lifted everybody up, especially forgotten men and women that both parties, quite frankly, ignored for far too long. And we thank the president for being an innovator, for being out there and working harder than anybody I've ever seen. So I think it's the least that we can do is get out there, tell the message, the real facts about the president's accomplishment, about his love for this country, and what he has intended for the future of America. We know he already did 7 million plus jobs. He's told us he's going to do another 6 million at least. And what we know about President Trump, when he makes you a promise, when he makes the American people a promise, he is a man who honors and exceeds his word even. So thank him for that. And everything is on the line, as we know now, because the liberals, the Democrats, the socialists, the communists, that's the other side, right? That's the juxtaposition. They have lost their minds. But we have not lost our way, and with the help of God, we will get this done. And with the incredible people on this stage, Eric and Laura and Brad and Don Marginal, I'm going to tell him to put a little more energy forward. He's a little low energy, this guy. That's fake news. You caught it, Posse. But thank you again. We look forward to seeing you out there. Let's get it done, make a big splash in Iowa, and show people in Iowa how much we love them and that the president has said his finest here to come out and show them the love and support. God bless you guys. And Eric Trump is up next. And let me tell you something. Not only is he doing an incredible job with the businesses, he is all in for his family, like each and every one of them are working every single day tireless. And they could be doing just about anything else with their lives, but they know you're worth it, America is worth it, and thank you, Eric, for the sacrifice that you make and your leadership.
Well, thank you, Kimberly. By the way, this is the most important thing that we'll do with our lives. This is the most important thing I think everybody will do with our lives. As you look around this room and you look at so many great people, whether it be Kevin or Jim Jordan or Matt over there, so many people in here, Mick and all the sacrifices you've made, or Corey Lewandowski and David Boss. I could literally go through every person in this room. The sacrifices everybody's made in this room is incredible. And guys, we are going to beat them again. We are going to beat them so much bigger this time than we've ever beat them before. You know, my father won this state by the biggest margin since Ronald Reagan. It was about 10 points. And we're going to beat them again. We had no advantage back then. We didn't know what we were doing. We were a family that had never run for anything. We didn't know what caucuses were at that point. This was not the world that we ever lived in. But the one thing that we were dedicated to, and the one thing my father was dedicated to, was taking on the swamp and beating the swamp. And you know what? He's had to fight the swamp every single day he's been in there. And you guys know this. I mean, Jim and Matt, you guys are over there. And Kevin, you guys have seen the swamp like no one else before. They still try to take the man down because they know they cannot beat him here. They know they won't beat him in Iowa. They know they won't beat him in South Carolina. They know they won't beat him in the general election, so they try and take him down. And when you look at the fundraising that we have going on, when you look at the grassroots support, right now we have over $200 million cash on hand. $200 million cash on hand. Guys, since inception, we've raised $465 million. We raised more than all the Democrats combined in the last quarter. We raised $155 million last quarter. All the Democrats combined raised $120 million. We had 1.5 million new donors. Think about that number, 1.5 million new donors, most of whom had never donated to a political campaign in the last quarter alone. And guys, we're poised to go over, and we're going to get these guys. I'm telling you, we've never felt more support. The American people look through what's happening. They see it as the nonsense that it is. They see the results. They see the economy. They see the unemployment. They see the rebuilding of our military. They see a guy who's actually willing to stick up for this country again. They see the protection of civil liberties and religious freedom. I look at Pastor Paul in the front row, and she's nodding. What he's done for religious freedom, what he's done for the military. We're saying Merry Christmas again. We weren't saying that. And you know what, guys? I'm telling you, we're going to have the greatest victory come November 3rd. that any president has ever had in this country. And I can tell you that on behalf of Don, Kimberly, Laura, Brad, myself, and everybody in this room, we are going to fight like no one has ever fought before because we love this country, we care about this country, and we're going to win again for this country. So thank you very much for having us here, and we're going to have a lot of fun at these caucus sites.
Wow, on this stage I feel like Mini Mike.
We could get you a box.
Yeah, I may need a box.
Would you like a...
Well, oh what? Come on, we're from New York. This was no secret. This is something he's seriously insecure about. It's been years combating, but no, in all seriousness,
Donald Trump,
it is great to be here.
American Jew, and ever since your father was elected president, more and more Jews are being gunned down every year.
Well, I don't think anyone's done more for Israel and for American Jews than Donald Trump, so you can keep going. So, this is why I wrote the book Triggered, folks. Who here has read New York Times #1 bestseller, Triggered? There you have it. So, Donald Trump, who's done more for the state of Israel, who's defended Jews, who has combated the Hamas caucus in Congress, where there are Democrats in Congress saying anti-Semitic things, but that will be the headline. So we've gotten used to this. We've gotten used to the double standard of the media. We've gotten used to their lies because no one's ever held them accountable until Trump. Okay, and that's what we see here. That's why it's great to be in this room, and I want to thank some of the people in this room. Let's call it the brawlers over here. The guys who saw Trump in 2016 and said, wait a second, guys. We don't just have to lose. We don't just have to roll over and die because the other side wants us to and their buddies in the mainstream media want us to. That's not how it works anymore. So it's great to be able to see that, to be able to see cabinet secretaries here, to be able to see governors and lieutenant governors here, to be able to see some of the leaders of the evangelical community here. It's a little different when I was scrounging up 10 or 12 people in a pizza ranch 4 years ago. It reminded me of a Biden rally today. You know what I'm talking about, right? The only difference was when I was speaking to 12 people, I don't need a teleprompter. It's a little bit different. But that's the reality. And that's what it is. Today we have a real team. Today we have results. In 2016, my father said, vote for me. What do you have to lose? He was right. Everyone criticized him because you're not supposed to say that. But that was the reality. No one actually did the things they ran on. When did that become the anomaly? That a politician would actually do all of the things he said he was going to do. And to do it and have the results and to have the track record and the unprecedented success despite exactly zero help from the other side, who is frankly far more concerned about making sure that Trump fails than they are doing anything, let alone representing their own constituencies. That's what we've seen. There's never been incoming like this of a president, and there's also never been results. But imagine what would happen when the American people go out and vote on November 3rd and send a mandate back to Congress and to all of the lunatics on the left who've been taken over by the commie division of the party and say, we want you to actually get things done. We want you to work on infrastructure, because while we've done a lot, there's still a lot left to be done. And Donald Trump's going to do that. He's going to right the ship. He's going to get things going. And it's because of the help of people like yourselves and the great people of this state and the others that we will be all over. And that's the reality, as Eric said it. There is nothing more important we can do with our lifetimes, okay? Unlike Hunter Biden, we were international business people before we got into politics. That's what we actually did. But when we said, hey, we're not going to do new deals going forward. We won't do that. Just fear of possible impropriety. We didn't use it as a mandate to say, hey, let's get rich quick. Let's do it. Okay? That's the difference between us and them. That's why we're here now. That's why we will fight harder than any people you've ever seen for the next 10 months to make sure that this continues, because it matters. It matters for America, it matters for our kids, and it matters for our grandkids. Because I want someone at the helm. I want someone making the decisions that our grandkids will have to live by, who's actually done these things in the real world, who's actually done it from a position of practice, not just theory, and certainly not just academic warped commie theory, which is what we're getting from the other side these days. There has never been a greater divide between the two parties. There's never been a greater divide between those ideologies, and candidly, we can't recognize much of the other side. When I see the mainstream ideals of socialism and communism actually being pushed, I know we say this as a joke and everyone's laughing, but it's not a joke. It's actually a part of that platform today. I wrote about it in the book. Our mother escaped communist Czechoslovakia. Okay, our grandfather and our grandparents, they took us there at a young age so we could see what it was actually like, so we could understand the blessings and the good fortunes that we have being Americans with our freedoms. And I always say, the Democrats can get someone to get on this stage right now and tell you that spending $93 trillion, just minor details, 15 times US government revenue to prevent farting cows and air travel is a brilliant, brilliant plan. They can get you to do that, but they can't find anyone who's actually grew up under those systems. Not someone from Russia, former Soviet Union, not someone from China, not someone from Venezuela, not someone from Cuba who says, no, 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 let's bring that stuff here. That's what this election's about. That's what we're up against, and that's why we have to send a loud and clear mandate. So it is great to be back in the state. I look forward to caucusing, especially now that I know what I'm actually doing when they give me the mic tonight. It'll be a lot of fun, and I promise you one thing, over the next 10 months, Donald Trump will make this very, very entertaining for you all. Thank you, guys. Great to be back in Iowa.
I know some of you have a long drive you're going to take off. We're still going to answer, we're going to take a few questions from the media, if the media can be calm and more organized than normal. Say that nicely. But I know some of you might have long drives. Feel free if you have to take off. Do we have more media questions? Go ahead. You guys feel free to.
Kyle Mazza from UNF News. So what has Iowans said to you when you were caucusing with them? What has Americans said about Donald Trump that's important to the American people?
Honestly, what I see the most, and again, I spend a lot of time in actual flyover country. I mean, whether it's my hobbies, whether it was that, when we showed up to Iowa in 2016, we weren't just showing up here because now we're in politics. Here's your token Iowan. We actually had real friends over here. And honestly, the biggest thing I get is thanks. It's someone telling us, thank you for the sacrifices that your family is making because you didn't need this job, right? The presidency wasn't the next natural progression for my father like it would have been for Hillary, where it's her turn. Right? He'd actually done things in the real world. He needed this job, frankly, like a hole in the head, especially understanding the resistance that he was going to get. And one of the most important things you guys should all know about Donald Trump, because I think it's sort of indicative, another one of the stories I told in the book, was really on that day, on June 16th, 2015, when we went down in the elevator, right? Before he went on the infamous now escalator ride to announce his candidacy. He looked us in the eye and he says, now we find out who our real friends are. But what it tells you two things. A, it tells you he understands how the real world works. But more importantly, it tells you that he understood what he was getting into regardless and did so anyway. And I think real Americans, I think they recognize that. They see the results in their jobs, they see it in their paychecks, they see it at the lowest levels of the economy, where it actually should be going on and where people have talked about for decades actually adding that boost, but have never been able to do it. And it's because you have someone making decisions who's actually signed the front of a paycheck for the first time. It's not a part of our political society these days. You're lifelong politicians and you jump progression to progression. This is someone who's actually done it. And so what we see day in and day out is thanks. Even for those things where it's controversial, we appreciate you actually taking this fight. How come no one's ever talked about China trade? How come no one, for 50 years, we know it's been a disaster. We know they've been ripping us off. We talk about free trade, but we understand what they're actually doing in practice, on the other side, but no one had the guts to take them on. Just like you could never renegotiate NAFTA. It's impossible. It's been there for 20 years. It's never going to happen. And as they are pushing the Russia hoax, meaning the Democrats are pushing the Russia hoax, he's signing the USMCA. As they're pushing and signing the articles of impeachment, he's signing an unprecedented never seen trade deal with China. That's the difference between the two sides. And again, the American people recognize it. I mean, I think the fact that he's been as vocal about it because he has pushed back, because he's also done the unconventional and not just, again, taken the loss or just been really demure about being attacked all the time. He actually hits back. I think people are starting to fully understand why he has to. Again, when you take that kind of incoming, when the entire family, frankly, takes that incoming, you saw what they tried doing to me for 2 years, minor details. I think they get it now. And I joke, if I'm getting a little long-winded in this one, I'm sorry, but I tell the story just because it's so indicative of sort of the world in which we live right now, of Kimberly and my last Valentine's Day. She dragged me to a restaurant on the Upper East Side of New York, not exactly a conservative stronghold, okay? So I'm sitting there miserable, wondering when, you have one of these clowns that's sort of a plant or whatever it is going to come and say whatever it is or do what they tried to do to Eric in Chicago, all these sort of disgusting things. So I'm not really having a good time. 90 minutes goes by, we pay the bill, reluctantly we walk out, and this older lady walks up to me in a smaller place, right? So everyone hears it, and she screams, "You!" And I'm like, oh, here we go, right? I don't need the headache. It's not what I want. I'd be happy just cooking at home. "I love you guys." And she's screaming it, though. "You guys," and this was not, again, this was a Upper East Side New Yorker, very clearly, right? "You guys don't care. You have the guts to say what needs to be said. You're just doing it. You push through it." She used a couple more colloquialisms that I probably won't say in a press conference in Iowa. But the entire restaurant is looking, and I'm thinking all those people that I thought were giving me side-eye for 90 minutes, they get up. And they start clapping. And we spent the last half an hour of that evening taking selfies in a restaurant on the Upper East Side of New York. So everyone there actually got it. But it took that one little old lady to be the catalyst, to break the ice, to make it okay to like Trump. And that's because the media's done a very effective job of, if you like him, you must be, you heard Buttigieg, you must be a racist if you want American taxpayer dollars to go to benefit American kids, your kids. You must be a terrible human being if you want to live your American dream, rather than export it, like it's been our only net export for the last 50 years, right? Real people get it. They see through the nonsense. They're not buying it anymore. It's why alternative media has taken this thing. So if that can happen in the Upper East Side of New York, it's happening everywhere, guys. I can promise you that.
Thank you, Don. I got to say, I've always said about the president, read a character of a man through his children. I get lucky to work with these guys every day. It's unbelievable. You got to say, these kids are amazing, I have to say. I can call them kids. I'm older than all of them. All right, another question. Go ahead. Yeah, she got the mic right there.
Thank you. Miriam Elder from BuzzFeed News. I'm wondering what you guys are thinking watching the Democratic caucus tonight. Who do you think is looking strong? And I understand that the campaign's position is that the president could beat any of the candidates, but is there someone that you are particularly excited to potentially fight against?
Well, first of all, I got to say it's a little deja vu for them because I can see Bernie trying to get messed with the same way the president got messed with back in our caucus. I can already see the establishment. Some phone calls are happening.
We saw what happened the last time they rigged the election.
Yeah, so I continue to think that tonight will be a real answer. Like I think Bernie, and what happens to him is going to be real. What the future of this, of the primary is going to be for the Democrats. We'll see. There's a lot of changes, and I think Bernie will do well. I don't think. Oh, sorry.
You caressed me very nicely. So.
Yeah, no worries. Overall, look, the president, he's a fighter. I've never sat with him one time and he goes, "That's the guy I want," or the woman. He would take all of them on. I would. He's that kind of guy. That's his character. He's tough. He's never sat in front of me and said, let's not get this one or get this one. And Corey knows that, and all the other people, and Mick and David Bossie here, all sat in front of him. I've never seen him back down from a fight, and I think he understood when he won in 2016, there was a start of this fight, not the end of it, and he sees 2020 even, he's ready, and I'm excited, and I think tonight will be a real test on the Democrat side.
By the way, I think one thing that should be pointed out is, while obviously it seems like there's a good surge in Bernie and obviously a lot of support, Joe Biden's had Iowa to himself for, 3 weeks? Because of the impeachment sham. So you can see, but whether that's by design, I don't know if you believe that, Kevin, or not, maybe, but
Nancy Pelosi actively trying to keep Bernie off of the trail. So, I mean, I would hope that with 3 weeks unfettered access to Iowa in a primary, if Biden doesn't win big, I mean, he's probably in a lot of trouble, right? I mean, if he doesn't win big after having 3 weeks while all of his real competition is sitting in D.C. going through Nancy's hoax, I mean, I think there's some big problems there. But again, if it ends up being Biden because they set it up, as I said, the last time they rigged a primary, it worked out really well for us. We got the perfect candidate to run against. And, given the history and, given all of the other things we see about his competency on the stage, it's one thing to hide him in a field of 17. It's another to try to hide Joe when he's one-on-one with Trump for 6 months, and that is a fight I would pay a lot of money to see.
Hi, Ginger Gibson with Reuters. This is a show of force. You have House leadership, you have cabinet secretaries. We've not seen previous presidents up for re-election make this kind of show of force in the primary. What is the motivation behind this? And is it in part to change the topic or the discussion or take away in some way, move the discussion away from impeachment as that's unfolding in the Capitol right now?
There's a few points here, but I'll tell you, unfortunately, the media doesn't tell a lot of truth about us, so we have to show up in force, so they have to write it. I think this president is building a real organization. Everyone said he couldn't do that, couldn't do this. It's always he can't, and then he just keeps doing and doing and doing. We saw that last night with the Super Bowl ad and criminal justice reform. If we don't go out and show it, the media filter buffers it. We do focus group after focus group. And the most amazing thing I hear at the end of every focus group is people go, I don't think I'm hearing the real story. One time after another after another. We just did one in Charlotte, and there was a group full of women, and they just go, why do we never hear this? Is this true? And unfortunately, the world we live in now, sensationalism and supporting an ideology for Democrats is the future of what the media thinks they need to do. And I know a lot of the media push back on this, but I'm going to tell you, we're here in force to show the American people that this is a real movement. This president is serious about 2020, and we're going to build an organization because one thing about this base and the growing base that's occurring right now is they love this president, they love this country, and they're willing to fight for it. And today is the first step in that fight. Thank you, everybody. See you this evening.